All right, good afternoon, committee. Thank you for joining us. My voice is pretty much back at about 87.3%, so that might work appropriate. As at this time, this is the last scheduled meeting of the 2026 legislative session. So I keep your applause down. I know that we've waited for this day since January, so the day has arrived. So we have. Like I say, since we won't meet tomorrow, we won't go long, but we will have a somewhat full agenda today. So we do have on the agenda 2 bills to possibly work. And so we will do those here in just a little bit. But first, we will start with a presentation on the Kansas Biological Survey. And we welcome Sarah Bayer. She is the director, the state biologist. So for a presentation, and thanks for joining us. We have your presentation, I believe, on the screens as well as it's on with our materials for today. So welcome to committee.
All right, can you hear me okay? All right, I'm pressing the advance. Good afternoon, and I want to thank you for allowing me to have some of your time today to talk about the work that the Kansas Biological Survey does for the state of Kansas. I am Sarah Bayer. I am the director of the Kansas Biological Survey. I have been in this position since 2019, and interestingly, I am only the 4th director of the KBS since it was founded in 1911. I am a native Kansan, and I got my PhD from Kansas State University. Applause. So just briefly, some background on the KBS. Kansas is pretty exceptional in the fact that there were organized efforts to inventory the plants and animals of this state dating back to about the time Kansas became a state. But due to this expertise and these collections, the Kansas Biological Survey was formally established at KU in 1911. In 1959, the Kansas Legislature passed a bill that recognized the Kansas Biological Survey as a non-regulatory state agency. And so today, the KBS holds dual status as a state agency, but also as a designated research center at the University of Kansas. There are many facets to the Biological Survey and this research center, but today I'm going to just focus on 3 main programs at the survey that serve the state. Working on, I think, issues we all find important. The Kansas Natural Heritage Inventory Program is focused on species of importance and concern. The Kansas Lake Assessment Program, or Surface Water Assessment Program, is focused on surface water quality. And the Kansas Applied Remote Sensing Program models water quantity and agricultural productivity. Before I go into some of the highlights of the work that these programs do and these scientists do, I want to underscore that we partner with a lot of other agencies in Kansas, all of the other major universities in Kansas, federal agencies that are also focused on natural resources, as well as agricultural industry and nonprofit, non-governmental organizations. So we don't work alone. So I'm going to start with the Kansas Natural Heritage Inventory Program, which I'll just refer to as Heritage Program. And this picture here, this map, is on the back of the handout that you received. Heritage Program was established in 1986 by the Kansas Legislature, House Concurrent Resolution 5030, to identify ecologically important sites across Kansas, largely based on vegetation surveys And this map shows a number of places where the Heritage Program has conducted surveys and the partners we have worked with. Heritage Program also manages data, statewide data, on plant and animal species. And I'm going to take you through a little bit about what they do. So Heritage Program receives data, information on plant and animal species throughout Kansas from other state agencies, from researchers, and from museums and anyone else collecting data. At the Heritage Program, they quality control these data, and then they integrate it with geographic information systems to use in a number of applications. For example, the map that you've already seen of rare species, rare animals, rare plants, and rare plant communities that are not specifically identified at each site, but where their general locations are. Heritage Program is also the program that is the source of information on the precise locations of at-risk species in Kansas. Other applications that these data are used for are to develop the State Wildlife Action Plan, and they can be used in environmental reviews. Heritage Program has a long working relationship with Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks. And so you might not know this, but we kind of function like people behind the scenes at Wildlife and Park. So this is just one example of a dashboard that was created by KBS showing the incidence of suspected cases of bird flu in Kansas and where that bird flu is, those cases have been across Kansas. And another dashboard that's about to be rolled out is the deer dashboard to understand per deer management units how many permits have been distributed, what are the deer populations and the densities, and so that is about to roll out. Moving into the work we do in surface waters, the biological survey is largely focused on studying harmful algal blooms. So this map here was created from data that is collected by Kansas Department of Health and Environment that goes around and monitors these harmful algal blooms in all of the federal reservoirs and lakes across Kansas. And so these harmful algal blooms can make pets and livestock sick. They're also not good for humans. So the biological survey has been looking into how have these harmful algal blooms changed over time, and can we predict when they will bloom. So the HABS team at KBS has gone out and cored all 24 federal lakes, taking these deep sediment cores in the lake. They bring these cores back to the lab and they fractionate these cores, and then they analyze those samples for indicators of harmful algal blooms. And so this graph here shows, well, I should back up. When they analyze these data, as you go deeper and deeper to the core, the farther back in time you go. So then you can graph how harmful algal blooms have changed over time. This graph is from Milford, showing that blooms, these indicators, were at a pretty low level up until about the 2000, when the blooms became not only larger, but also more frequent. And some of the results from this work have demonstrated that the HABs have increased twice to 10 times since the 2000s, early 2000s. The HABs team is also trying to predict when the blooms will occur. And so on 2 of our reservoirs, they have put out these very sophisticated buoys. And these buoys collect water quality data in real time. And so the buoys are out on Clinton and Tuttle. And so the buoys are collecting data on water quality, chemistries such as pH, dissolved oxygen, chloride, orthophosphates, and turbidity, right? And it's collecting these data at 2 depths. And so we can monitor in real time what's happening to the chemistry in the reservoir. And when the data indicates that the conditions are favorable for the blooms, then KBS advises the municipalities to prepare to treat the water for the bloom, which saves money and time. We're also involved in assessment of the Tuttle Creek water injection dredge operation. You can see the WID in the background of this picture, very small, but before, during, and after the dredging operations, the KBS team goes out and takes water samples to look at turbidity, water quality, and the amount of sediment that's being released into the water. Now I'm going to move into the last program I'd like to tell you about today, which is the Kansas Applied Remote Sensing Program, which I'll probably refer to as CARS. The CARS program was actually started in 1972, not at KBS, but between a partnership between the state of Kansas and NASA to explore in what ways can we use satellite imagery to benefit the state and understand our natural resources. So the CARS program studies water quantity in eastern Kansas, where we sometimes have water in excess, and in western Kansas, where we know there can be water deficit. The CARS program has developed a real-time flood mapping tool to save money and lives. The real-time flood mapping tool leverages water level data from stream gauging stations indicated by these little blue dots throughout the state, but this is showing the data library from the Kansas River watershed. And so those data are integrated with elevation data, and they are used to model flooding and project the extent of flooding, the time of that flooding, and these models are being used by the Kansas Division of Emergency Management, again, to save lives. This image here shows flooding along the Cottonwood River. The CARS program is working in western Kansas on playa wetlands. So playa wetlands are these small rainwater-fed basins, so depressions on the landscape. And this map of western Kansas on the left-hand side of the slide, every one of those green dots is a mapped playa wetland, overlaid on the High Plains Aquifer and the different groundwater management districts. So the KBS has mapped over 27,000 of these playa wetlands, so it's not a trivial number. Over 80% of them are cropped, and these areas of crop fields have very highly variable productivity depending on the weather that year. And they are very inconvenient to farm around. So a lot of this work is aiming to understand whether or not they are economic to farm, but also water accumulates in these depressions. And that water is not immediately taken up by the crops if there's low productivity and transpired back to the atmosphere. So there's potential for it to infiltrate into the aquifer. So the CARS program is mapping these playas and also trying to understand what we call the hydro period. When are they full of water and how long are they full of water? And these two images just show fields in Scott County, a month apart, where you see lots of playas in the blue at the end of May and very few playas by the end of June. And this is relevant to assessing the impact of playas on aquifer recharge. The last and project I'm going to talk about today, and is really exciting, is our newest project at KBS, is forecasting crop yield from combines and satellites. So John Deere equipment is equipped with GPS tracking devices. This was kind of new information for me. And so the producer then has access to a John Deere dashboard that can be used to actually view combine and other equipment activity in real time, right? And you can see the combines traverse the field. And so the combines are quantifying the harvest, and the GPS units are geolocating that data. And so on the John Deere website, then you can, or dashboard, you can see these yield maps. So the dark green is where there's greater yield, more harvest yield, and red is where it would be fairly low here on the edge of this particular farm field. And so what KBS researchers are doing is they are trying to help farmers clean these data, process these data into very useful mapping products that can then be used to inform their decision making. And so these geolocated data are being integrated with satellite data with the goal of eventually developing predictive yield maps during the growing season instead of knowing at the end of the growing season. So there are a lot of applications to this type of work and modeling. One is just preparing for harvest logistics, but it also has implications for variable rate fertilization to save costs on fertilizer. It has implications for precision irrigation to save water, and it has potentially applications for precision conservation, knowing areas that have chronically low productivity and yield. And I'm going to end by just letting you know that we are out there trying to disseminate the work that we do. And just in this past year, for example, we participated in the KGS field tour. Maybe you got a chance to interact with KBS scientists. We also took, some of you in this room, I know Representative Minix is in this picture, took legislators on a tour of the WID, the water injection dredge on Tuttle Creek. We were also presented and interacted with a lot of Kansans at the state fair. A number of people at the Kansas Biological Survey also participate on statewide committees, and those are, I won't review them, they're all listed here on the handout that I gave you. And every year we sponsor, attend, table, and present at the Kansas Natural Resources Conference and the Governor's Water Conference. And so I hope I've given you some idea or a better understanding of what the Kansas Biological Survey does for the state. I very much appreciate your time. I know you have a busy day today. I appreciate all of you for the work that you do for Kansas, and I'm happy to take any questions if time allows.
All right, Sarah, thank you so much. Very interesting. I think sometimes one of those we don't think much about, but it is important work with some of the things that you do. Any questions? Representative Minix?
I'm really interested in the algal blooms. You take all the different samples at different levels, and you can kind of predict what's the one single thing that we put into our reservoirs that tend to produce the algal blooms the most?
Well, the biggest culprits are nutrients, largely phosphorus, and that phosphorus largely comes in, it could be runoff from agriculture, but could also be from sedimentation.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions or comments? So I think we talked beforehand, just all this data, all this information that you have, how readily accessible is it? Who's it accessible to? The physical plant of all this. I mean, I think this is something that, committee you should probably have with you just to look at all the different things that are available, maybe able to help your constituents. So maybe just talk logistically about how this works.
Yeah, I should have had a slide on that. So all of the applications that are developed by the Kansas Applied Remote Sensing Program and those tools are readily available on their website, and that's ks.gov. KU.edu. I was wondering if it's actually listed on the back here. So they are open and available. Sometimes if it's not intuitive, I would encourage anybody to reach out to anyone at the CARS program. We love to interact with people and provide guidance. And the Heritage Program data, a lot of that has been available through the Kansas Natural Resource Planner, which is also available on the Kansas Biological Survey website. So to create those maps and use those tools.
Thank you, Mr. Chair,
Representative
and
Blex,
thank you
there
for
we
your
go.
presentation.
Go ahead.
The one thing I appreciated about the Kansas Biological Survey was the data on the interactive websites that you have that's out there. Now, there's so much data that it's just amazing. And, the tools, sometimes when I worked with it, I struggled with getting access, it wasn't always user-friendly in the old days, but the amount of data that we sometimes take for granted and thinks frivolous is not, because at later dates it becomes there and it becomes a depository for projects from endangered species to critical habitat to, or mussels or filter feeder mussels and all the issues. I appreciate the monitoring on the blue-green algae. That's a good indication, because that does cost the state of Kansas and certainly cities a lot of money for treatment. So if we can get ahead of that game, and we haven't had a major problem. I mean, recently we went through that for a while, but I do appreciate the amount of data there. And a lot of times people think we don't need it. And it's just like insurance. I don't need it till something happens. So that's kind of the deal. It works. Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate. We are planning to put those buoys out, or the goal is to put more buoys out on more reservoirs with more real-time information reaching the municipalities.
Good. Anything else? Seeing none. Thank you again for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you so
And,
much.
Just down the road, so maybe even update down in the years ahead. So thank you so much.
Thank
Okay, committee, we have a couple of bills left that we have heard over the last couple of days. So let's get into it. Senate Bill 407. Supervisor Hamilton, if you would explain and remind us again what this bill is about.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Senate Bill 407 would authorize the Department of Health and Environment to adopt 2 proposed rules and regulations. The regulations relate to hazardous waste monitoring and permit application fees. The economic impact statement prepared by the department indicated that such fees would exceed $1 million and thus need to be ratified by the legislature under KSA 77-441. The 2 proposed rules and regulations are KAR 28-31-10 and 28-31-10B. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Kyle? Representative Droege?
Kyle, that's the one that they wanted to double the fees from 10,000 to 20,000. Is that what I'm remembering?
Go ahead. Do you have some breakdowns maybe?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have a copy of the regulations in front of me. I do know that in statute, there are maximum fee limits in place with the monitoring fee cannot exceed $50,000, and the permit application fee has a maximum of $175,000. And the conferees indicated that they would not be increasing the fees and the regulations to even get to that maximum.
Okay, committee, any questions or comments or what do you want to do with this bill? Representative Droege?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Convince me if I'm wrong. KDHE wants to double fairly large amounts of money. And do we have any oversight over that? Do we know how efficient they are? We haven't heard anything from the industry. KDHE says that the industry says it's okay. We need to clean up, and the companies need to pay for that, but I guess I'm not quite comfortable with all that. Somebody make me more comfortable?
Well, I don't know. Comfortable as you want to be, Kate, would you come up and maybe explain the process of how you got to where you were and the conversations with industry, and when was the last time these fees were raised? Just kind of, again, maybe give us that context, kind of again, of how we got to where we are and why, basically why industry was not here testifying as well, if you don't mind.
Yes, I can do that. Thank you. Kate Gleason, KDHE. We have arrived at this point where we need to increase the fee substantially. I understand that doesn't, not happy about that on our end or on anyone else's end. We did attempt to hold off raising fees as long as possible, partly because we don't want to pass those fees along to industry until we have to, and partly because of the pandemic, right? There were several years in there where we didn't want to increase fees because every industry was suffering. And so we're sort of on the back end now of making up for that. One of the other reasons is that EPA funding, our grant that we receive from them, has been stagnant for a long time, probably 10 or 15 years. And the expectation is always that eventually that will start to increase and meet or match inflation rates. It has not done that. So we have suffered on that aspect of this too. Third thing is that we have added duties to our program. We took on the corrective action program from EPA in 2013. So that added a decent workload to our staff, and we did have to add some staff to our program at that time to take on that part of the program. Industry was a proponent of us doing that. They'd rather have us holding those corrective action permits than EPA. I believe that the last time that these fees were raised was 2012 or 2013. But let me look through my notes and see if I have that. Yeah, 2012. So we have waited, and maybe in 2020 we would have increased, and it would not have been as substantial of an increase, but because of difficulties in all industries, we held off, and so here we are with a little bit more of a bigger bite at the apple. I don't know if that answers all of the questions, but I'm happy to stand for additional questions.
Okay, Representative Droege, anything else right now, or you want to? Okay. Okay, and then Representative Mosier, then Representative Blacks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Kate. So you're raising the fee caps?
No, the fee caps are in statute. And so this is just a regulation that would increase the fees within those caps.
Okay, so you have not maxed out your caps?
No.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Representative Blacks.
Thank you, Kate. What is the state federal match? Is that 25-75 or is that 50-50?
The federal grant is about $900,000. So, okay, it's 25-75, yes.
Okay. And you made a statement that because of the limited fee dollars that you're not able to leverage the federal dollars. Is the state behind in terms of that, or is that just something recently, or has that been a while?
No, that's not a factor for us in the fee increase. That EPA grant is a categorical grant, and we receive it sort of automatically. I mean, there's work we have to do to maintain the grant and things like that, but we have to ensure that our program is adequately funded to receive that grant, which is a component of this. But we have not gotten a determination from EPA, right, currently that we're not adequately funded. We are looking at that. That's part of the reason we're planning for down the road.
And can that match be in terms of in-kind, like for employee salary and stuff, or is that actually dollar for dollar, do you know?
It can be in kind.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay, committee, any other questions or concerns on this? Representative Featherston?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My notes indicated that you did consult with stakeholders. Can you confirm that?
Yes, we did consult with stakeholders at the beginning of the process of promulgating these regulations.
Anyone else? Okay, anything else? Chair will entertain a motion. Representative Neely?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that we pass out SB 407 favorably.
Seconded by Roth. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Senate Bill 407 is passed out favorably. Anyone want to have their vote recorded? Seeing none, we'll move on. Senate Bill 390. Kyle?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 390 would prohibit certain additives in food provided by schools as part of certain food service programs and require schools to certify that their facilities do not serve food containing such additives. The prohibition on additives would apply starting in the 27-28 school year. Remedial actions would begin to apply the following school year for schools that cannot certify or mistakenly certify that their meals don't contain the prohibited food additives. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Kyle? Seeing none, committee? Comments? Who wants to start? Representative Bowman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've never presented an amendment in committee before, so please stop me if I'm doing this wrong, but I do have an amendment.
Okay. Okay, we'll pass it out. Thank you. Okay, Representative, would you want to explain your amendment?
Yes, Chair. So my district is wholly contained within USD 259, and there was some concern in 259 about how the schools would go about certifying that their foods did not have any of the aforementioned additives in them, and what kind of administrative and time cost that would take. So this amendment seeks to simply clarify that any representations, labels, or specifications made by the manufacturer or the supplier of said food would serve as quote-unquote good enough for verifying that the foods listed do not have the additives.
Okay. Any questions on the amendment? What's that? Oh, that's right. I need a second. By Schling and Siepen. Okay. I guess my question is this, was it not implied now? You don't believe it was implied by the original bill?
Not that I read, no.
You think that, okay.
I would stand for correction, though, if I'm wrong.
Oh, okay. Representative Seibert?
Just a clarification, because I don't ask many questions, but does this mean that private and public schools could not make homemade food without these substances, or is this just on purchased foods that they have to have these?
My understanding is it applies to the food that is procured through the normal avenues of providing school lunch. I would refer to the reviser, I guess, for any clarification.
Is that right? This particularly bill just is a school lunch program, correct?
That's correct. Food that is served as a part of a school lunch or breakfast reduced meal or reimbursable food program.
So my question is, if they make their food from scratch, do they have to do something different then, or can they not do that?
Kyle?
If it is served as part of a reimbursable meal, if they are going back to the USDA and looking to get reimbursed for it, or if they've somehow come into an agreement where they could otherwise serve that food as part of their programs, then it wouldn't matter if they made it from scratch or if they purchased it, they wouldn't be able to have these additives in the food.
Are you asking like kids' birthday parties and birthday deal at school? Is that what you're thinking, or?
There's a lot of schools in my neighborhood.
Oh.
Make a lot of their food from scratch, and in the COVID era, the governor made them have to turn in tremendous amount of paperwork 2 to 3 hours a day if they made buns or cinnamon rolls.
Okay.
All the ingredients was in it, and if it changed deals, and that's the reason I'm asking.
Okay. All right. We'll let that stir for just a bit. Hang on just a second. We'll go in order. We'll go Roth, Blex, and then Mosier. So Representative Roth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just, it appears they're crossing out the butylated hydroxynosol, whatever that's called. And that's been, I'm just looking here, it's a carcinogen to humans. So.
That's on the original bill.
The amendment deals with the box on the second page.
My bad, thank you.
The other one was already taken off. Representative Blex?
Thank you. I just wanted to point out that school on the back page there under 2 includes both public and non-public schools, grades kindergarten through 12. So that would include all private as well as public. Am I understanding that correctly, Mr. Reviser?
To the extent that they offer these USDA food programs, yes.
Thank you.
Representative Mosier?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I think to clarify, Representative Seibert, they would have to make sure that all the ingredients in the bread recipe, the flour, the yeast, the salt, the water, all of it, does not contain any of these. Is that correct? If they're making homemade anything, the ingredients of that particular part of the meal don't contain these things.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, again, if it's offered as a part of a food service program.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Representative Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With regard to this amendment, it appears that we're not moving the responsibility for certification away from school officials. In my district, we have quite a number of smaller schools with a food service director. We don't have a large staff doing that. And I would oppose the amendment just on the fact that it doesn't move the responsibility back to the state, where if we're going to do this, this needs to be done by state officials and not put the burden of proof and the responsibility on individual schools. This will definitely hurt small schools and small school districts.
Other comments on the Representative Featherston?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate this amendment. I think it could increase the odds of it passing because it doesn't hold our school districts liable if they're given false information. And I actually think it does take some responsibility off the schools because we're saying that label should be correct and we accept it as correct, and like your lunch service people aren't going to be held responsible if there's a blip along the process.
Other comments on the amendment? Seeing none, Representative Bowman, you may close.
Thank you, Chair. I close and move my amendment.
Okay, we have, and a second? Seconded by Featherston. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same sign? No. The noes have it. Chair, the opinion of the chair, the amendment fails. Now we're back on the bill.
Can I record my vote?
Yes.
Thank you.
You recorded as a
Yes.
yes. Representative Boatman, do you have another amendment?
I do have another amendment,
Okay.
yes.
Oh, thank you. Representative, do you want to explain your amendment?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So this amendment, again, in conversation with my school district, there was a lot of concern regarding the implementation of a school lunch program that did not include the listed additives, both from a menu building perspective, but also from a cost implementation perspective. This amendment would simply introduce a staggered implementation of the program. So the first year that the program was implemented, it would require that all of the dairy products exclude all of the aforementioned additives. The second year would be, in addition to the dairy, would include all meats. The third year would include, in addition to dairy and meats, grains and vegetables. And by year 4, it would include all of the food served in school lunches.
Okay, do I have a second? I get it, Featherston, second him. Okay, we're on the amendment. Questions, comments? Your chance to read it. So again, the way I look at this is it's staggered, so it'll be fully implemented in the 30-31 school year. So the first year, it would just be dairy, correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Okay. Should be little bits, pieces. Do we know how this would work in the federal, the reimbursement, you know, the school lunch program reimbursed back from USDA? Did any contact with them on, is this okay, or do you know? I don't know.
I don't know about that.
Okay. Any questions or comments on the amendment? Representative Featherston?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the tiered approach because I'm not sure exactly what will be left in schools' freezers at the end of the school year. I think I can assume it's not going to be milk. And so that seems like not the worst place to start. And I think, you know, I did have some contact in KDHE at the school meal, and there was concern that it's hard enough for the schools to keep up with the Buy American requirements, and they weren't really sure how we were going to keep up with all these things too. So I think if we had a chance to just ease into it, it would give us a better chance of success.
Questions or comments on the amendment? Representative Blex?
Well, it still doesn't eliminate the responsibility of the school. I would have to agree with my colleague. I think if we're going to pass something at the state level, then the state should have some inspection or whatever it takes into it, because to me, it would open up a school facility to a lawsuit, because if they incorrectly certify something and it doesn't meet meets the requirements of this subsection, then the school shall comply with requirements. Notify the parent or guardian of each student enrolled in attending such school of the violation. And that to me opens the door for some lawsuits that we don't really need. So I'm going to be against it just for that reason alone.
Representative Schlingensieben?
Well, with all respect, if we'd have passed the First Amendment, that wouldn't have been, the liability issue would have gone away. Just.
Other questions, comments? Representative, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I really would encourage everybody to vote for this amendment. If this amendment gets voted down for the reasons stated, then I look forward to everyone voting the amendment down entirely. I close and move my amendment.
Okay. Do I have a second? Second by Featherston. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. No. Amendment fails. We're back on the bill.
I'll report that vote too.
Record the votes, okay. We have Brownlee Page, Boatman, Schlingensieben, and Featherston. Yes. Anyone else want their vote recorded? Seeing none, we're back on the bill. Representative Droege.
I just have a few things written down. You know, federal FDA rules are changing presently. We have the new Farm Bill. I'm also concerned about federal reimbursement for if we change these rules. And the state rules then would be registering against the federal rules. So you don't want every state having different rules. You don't want to have our state different than the FDA rules. It's an incomplete list. It's sudden as of 2028. It's going to increase the cost for the school districts. I've heard some indications that the availability of food without these products in them is going to be difficult, and it's going to make the schools responsible. That's just things I've written down, if anybody can convince me otherwise.
Other questions or comments on the bill? The bill we are working is as presented. Representative Rozier?
Mr. Chair, I have an amendment.
Okay, Representative, you can explain your amendment.
I call on the reviser to explain, if he could first, please.
Kyle?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This amendment would add the contents of House Bill 2476 to Senate Bill 390, and it would change the effective date of the bill to January 1, 2027. House Bill 2476 is the pesticide bill that would reaffirm that federal warning labels are sufficient to satisfy any Kansas statutory or common law duty to warn or label. This committee heard that bill in January, and the House passed the bill on January 29th with a vote of 81 to 36. The bill then went to the Senate and was heard by the Senate Ag Committee on March 9th.
Okay. Representative, any more about your amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This just inserts another bill that's held up in the Senate. 2476 came out of our committee, and it passed the House by a wide margin. It's a really important bill. It ensures that Kansas farmers will continue to have access to essential crop production tools without the fear of lawsuits based on failure to warn. There was productive conversation in the Senate about this bill. It hasn't passed out of committee, and we are running out of time, quite frankly. In order to move forward with this topic this late in the session, I encourage a yes vote on the amendment, and I yield for questions.
Representative Mosier?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is an important piece of legislation that we need to keep this conversation alive regarding pesticide labeling. So I would encourage a yes vote. Thank you.
Representative Boatman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To be honest, I'm a little confused about why we are so ready to support the idea that it's fine to take the federal government's word for it on pesticides, but we can't take the federal government or a food manufacturer and supplier's word on whether or not there are additives in food. I think adding this amendment to this bill just to keep the prior bill alive, I can't support this amendment, especially not with the arguments I just heard on my amendments.
Senator Blex?
Thank you. This is a gut and go, and all the other language would go out of there correctly on 390.
No. 390 remains as presented. This amendment puts in 2476 in with it.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Featherston?
I'd like to challenge germaneness. This expands the scope of the bill.
Okay. And in committee, the chairman is the judge, jury, and executioner of that. And I say the bill is germane. They're both dealing with agriculture and with food and food production, and so I consider them germane.
Is this open for discussion?
If you want to discuss it, that's fine. That's my ruling, but go ahead and talk.
Okay, I will. I would like to challenge that ruling. I think we've seen on the floor many times, and I've seen in committee at least once, that adding language to the bill is not germane.
And I appreciate that. Well, I understand. Representative Blex?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're also talking about chemicals in both bills. One, removing these additives and food dyes and stuff in one, so that's another point of ties of not only food, agriculture, but the chemicals that we're regulating. So there is some natural tie in there, in my opinion. Thank you.
Representative Featherston?
The 2 point of contact rule has not been used definitely this year, and probably not. Every time on the floor that it's been non-germane that I recall, it was because it expanded the scope of the bill.
Well, just has changed the title now, so it is germane because it is a new title to the bill. Representative Neely?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I would just say, Nirhing, that it, unfortunately, whether you like the rule or don't like the rule, the ruling of the chair is the rule when it comes to germaneness and this issue. So, I mean, we can continue to discuss it and everything, but the ruling's already been made.
Representative Boatman?
Thank you. I lost my train of thought, but essentially, I'm little bit shocked at the convenience of the argument for pesticides when that same argument was not good enough for the food additives. Thank you, Chair.
Other questions or comments on the amendment? Seeing none, Representative Droege first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I like the pesticide bill, but I don't like this school lunch bill. So I don't know yet how I'm going to swallow that.
Understand. And what I will say then before we get to the close is the reason why this is here was for discussion of this 2476 was tabled in the Senate. And Senate rules say you have to have 2/3. They tried to bring it up a couple times. It fell short. In talking with the chairman on the Senate Agriculture Committee, it would be very tough to bring it up. This is a bill that passed by large margins in the House. It is beyond simply a matter of, quite honestly, the subject of the bill. This is House versus Senate. It is. I wish, and in a perfect world, we do these things as we should, simply because of the merits of the ideas. But as you will learn in the next few days, you will be presented bills that have had 4 and 3 and 4, some instances 5, I have heard already this year, different bills put into one. Is it good? Not necessarily. Is it a way to legislate? That's the process. And it is one of the parts of this job that is not the most entertaining, but in order to move forward, and yes, as the chairman, I believe strongly in 2476. And so I guess I will use the bully pulpit to do whatever I can in the means necessary to move that forward, because it's a good bill for all Kansans. Anybody that eats needs to make sure that we have those tools available. The other one, that started in the Senate. There's very little conversation. We got it at the late date and trying to do the best we can. We had many concerns. Here's the situation, quite honestly. If that bill would have been by itself, and we did not do this last amendment, I believe that Senate Bill 390 probably would not have gone anywhere out of this committee. And so that was a prerogative of the chair to try to do, sometimes in leadership, you have to do things you may not like the best, but how can you move forward? And that's what we're doing. That's what I believe. So sorry about that, but I wanted to make sure everybody kind of understood where we were coming. Anybody else on the amendment? Seeing none, Representative Rozier, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your advocacy on the matter. Body, we have worked at a speed that is not matched by our friends across the rotunda in the other chamber. And when we look at properly vetted bills and a bill that passed the majority of our chamber, last month, 2 months ago, this is what that bill is. And we're here to legislate here in the now. Some of us have to fight for our lives to get back into this building. And so what we're doing is codifying existing common law. And just looking at the bill and where it's at and what we can do to legislate in the now, to take care of this bill in the now, I urge you to pass the amendment favorably. I want to thank the advocates on both sides for the bill and the time spent vetting the bill in the other chamber. Mr. Chair, I close.
We hear the motion. Do we have a second? Representative Roth, seconds. All those in favor of the amendment, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
No.
Amendment passes. We're back on the bill as amended. Any other comments on Senate substitute for Senate Bill 390? Representative Featherston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I could have played along with the MAHA agenda and supported 390 with or without Representative Boatman's amendments. I cannot support this, and I would remind the committee that the common law in question in the amendment is the failure to warn statute, which is being removed from this bill. It relates to is if there is new information that comes up between the labeling and relabeling period, that if a company knows it exists and does not publicize it, that is failure to warn, and that is against the law currently. That is the right that you are giving up.
Other questions or comments? Seeing none, Representative Neely.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that we pass Senate substitute bill for 390 favorably.
Second. Second, you've heard the motion, seconded by Rozier. All those in favor of the House substitute right for Senate Bill 390. Is that correct, what the new label is? Signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
No.
Bill passes. Senate House substitute for Senate Bill 390 has been passed out of committee favorably. And we record vote. Featherston, no. Slingerstein, no. Boatman, no. Brownlee Page, no. Anyone else want to have their vote recorded? And Rozier, yes. Well, here we go. We're just ready to wrap up. I only have 20 minutes. Gary, sit down. I'm just kidding. No. I know you were.
There's no gavel.
No. We'll be very quick, but I just want a couple of comments as we wrap up. Thank you, committee. I think, yet again, we did some good work this year. We could have probably done a little bit more, but, you know, we're given what we're handed, and also, you know, the last 6 years, probably more of a defender than somebody on the offense to create a lot of things along the way. I don't have a long list. You know, I think, you know, you've known what we've done the last couple of years and the last 6. You know, we've moved the ball on some things, and thank you for those of you that have been with us here for the last 6 years, and hopefully one of you will be the chair next year when we gather. I want to thank those that have come before us here in this committee, and thank this year, you know, everybody that brought the snacks, the homegrown produce. Next year, make sure it follows the label, that we don't have any goofy looking stuff. But Reed, thank you. You know, I don't know if you were listening to all this, but you've almost become an expert now in agriculture and food. Walter and Heather, thank you for being here. Walter, and I know hopefully you'll come back as well. Kyle, we can't say enough. You don't say enough, but you do a good job in not letting anybody know what's going on, even if the chairman begs you, if we know that amendments are coming. But he's much happier, though, if he knows something's coming rather than being surprised, as Representative Boatman learned today. And she did that, and I appreciate that. Also want to thank my rankings over the last 6 years, Representative Carlin first, and now Representative Featherston, and Vice Chairs Representative Smith before, and now Representative Neely. So we thank them for all that. And so, you know, if we didn't get everything done, you know, you can set the agenda for next year. There are some things this year that were kind of peculiar, bills that should have been in our committee that weren't. And I think part of that is probably the attitude maybe of the speaker sometime, or the chairman, on what we will and won't handle. But this, as long as this is the Agriculture and Natural Resources Committee, bills dealing with agriculture and natural resources, AKA wildlife and parks, should be heard in this committee. As we deal with you know, the natural resources, a part of it. We made efforts with conservation. I think that's one thing we can be proud of. We made some efforts also with making sure the CSIP program and sorghum improvement goes on, hopefully in perpetuity. And so thank you for your efforts for that. We've learned about soil health over the last 6 years. We've learned a lot about the state checkoff programs. We've learned about the livestock industry and what goes on at K-State. And I hope whoever's in the chair next will continue those things. I think it's important because as you look around, the committee members, we all come from all walks of life and all different parts of the state. Because you know what? We all eat, and it's important. And we thank our friends from the urban areas that ask questions, because you can share some of those ideas with your constituents as well. We didn't quite get the sesame checkoff passed, but maybe Representative Schlingensieben will get that done in the future. Now, I say all that to say, you know, Terry Benitis started out as my assistant, and then she went on to kind of handle everything. I guess I was too much to handle, but we want to thank Dana committee. Dana has done yeoman's work through everything else, and all the literal abuse I think she's taken from me. She's been here, so if you would give her a great round of applause for everything. So as always, she makes sure that things are taken care of. Probably what we will do in the next couple of days, one of our breaks, we'll probably gather at the rail to just do a quick passage of the minutes. So anything else for the good of the committee? Oh, hey, we got you. Yes. Yeah. All right. Oh, and also we did work on fires, and pray the good Lord brings moisture so we don't have a lot and you have to deal with those as well. So, and maybe the raccoon bill still has life. So with that, we're on the floor. We will not meet tomorrow. So we are done. We're on the floor on Wednesday and until we're round up. So with that, we are adjourned.